just type in the chat #live. And if you are watching the replay, #replay. So I do believe that we have the slide up about how to cut your mortgage in half. We will be visiting that topic next week. Do apologise for being a little bit late. We've got some tropical weather here in Queensland, a bit stormy, and we're just having just a little bit of technical details. But look, I am very, very excited because we might not be talking about how to cut your mortgage in half. That will be next week. This week, I have the wonderful Alice McSweeney. Now, Alice is a property manager in Queensland, and some of our members may already be working with Alice, which is really amazing for the management of their portfolio. But it's always important to really ensure that we have the right property manager looking after our properties. So we're going to talk a bit about Property 101 with a property manager, all the checks and balances that we need to know as an investor to keep our investments safe. And I'm just going to hand it over to yourself, Alice. If you just want to introduce yourself and your company, and obviously you're zooming in from Queensland, which is fantastic. Have the storms hit you yet, or is it just me in Carrara? Oh, you're on mute, darling. You need to unmute yourself. Oh, I'll ask to unmute. Oh, I'll ask to unmute you. Give me.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, there we go.
Yes, I did get stuck. My 10-minute trip home did turn into almost an hour. It was absolutely manic on the highway, but I made it. We're all good.
Fantastic. So, Alice, tell us a bit about your company, how long you've been a property manager for, and I guess where I want to kind of get into it, because as an investor, we need to make sure we've got the right property manager. So give us some tips and tricks on how to make that right decision of who to work with, what we should be looking for, particularly when we're interviewing, making sure we've got the right expert in our corner.
Absolutely. And I have been doing real estate for 24 years. So the company I work for is Griffin National Real Estate. So we are based North Brisbane. We're about 50 kilometres north of Brisbane at Burpengary.
Nice.
But we do cover from the Sunshine Coast down to the Gold Coast and out to Ipswich. Mm-hmm. We do find that we do have multiple owners. So we will have owners that will have properties in all those basically 3 areas. Mm-hmm. And they do prefer to just deal with us. I have structured the business so that I've got 3 different property managers. So we certainly don't run our property managers ragged. So I'm not going to have my property manager from the Sunshine Coast down to the Gold Coast. And absolutely, I completely agree. I mean, your property manager is the one managing hundreds of thousands of dollars of your asset. So you need to make sure that your property managers are easily contactable. So our property managers all have mobile numbers. We don't agree that your property manager should not be a state secret. You should be able to reach out to your property manager. I also have my office manager based in the office. So she's also my senior property manager. So you will know that if your property manager is out and about, you can always contact Brooke in the office. And then there's always myself as well. So I'm actually part owner as well as business development manager. So we all work together. So I do have 3 property managers and 3 assistants that do all of our admin. So we're very much a case of we've stripped a lot of the admin away from our property managers so that they can purely focus on our landlords and our tenants. Proactively make sure that, you know, any maintenance that's reported is given to you in such a way of, this is what's happened, this is a photo of it, I've already spoken to my electrician, this is what's happening. So by the time it comes to you as a landlord, we're not just giving you a problem. And that's really what we've based our business on, is just open and honest communication. And Yeah, that's what we pride ourselves on. We've got a lot of information on our website, and I'm always available to have a chat as well.
So from a one-on-one perspective, what should we be looking for? What kind of questions would we be asking a property manager to ensure we've got the right property manager? And I guess what should a property manager be managing other than just the collection of rent?
Your property manager is your line between you and one of your biggest assets. So you want to make sure that your property manager doesn't call you and go, "You got an issue with your oven." Well, what's wrong with my oven? Is the oven is it not heating? Is the lights not working? Is the timer not working? Is the fan working? But whatever, it really comes down to finding someone that is willing to go that extra mile. So making sure when we go through and do routine inspections, is it something that we say this might need doing down the track? So we proactively, as an agency, and it's the only agent I've ever worked for. I've been with Griffin National now for 5 years. It's the only office. We actually proactively email out every single one of our tenants quarterly to say, have you got any maintenance that's outstanding? Because we would rather fix a hinge that might need doing or something little now rather than in 12 months' time say, your cupboards, your kitchen cupboard's fallen off or this has happened. So it's all these little proactive things that are going to assist you in something little can happen now rather than down the track going, I've now got $1,000 bill because I now need to replace, 5 kitchen cabinets and the drawers have fallen off and all the rest of it.
Which
so it
could
really
have been prevented. So you're talking about like preventative measures, like, ensuring that your property manager isn't just dealing with the day-to-day, but they're actually have a bit of foresight to prevent, certain things happening that can actually be prevented, in now time, which is great. I want to speak a little bit about, townhouses, because obviously a lot of our members have property that are townhouses. Some of them have houses. So tell us a bit about the best way for a tenant to actually manage the water, because I think this is an area that sometimes can be a bit tricky if your property manager isn't proactive in communicating with you that, yes, you will receive the water bill, but depending on your lease agreement, in most cases, your tenant should be paying the water usage. But I've seen time and time again a lot of people being caught out as investors with townhouses in forking the whole bill.
Yes, and there's a lot of agents so usually in a townhouse, you will have your main meter that Unity Water will read. And then on the back of your water bill at the top, if it says percentage share, that means that Unity Water is not individually reading your property. Usually on the properties themselves, there is a sub-meter. So what we do is for all of the properties that we manage, we will manually read that sub-meter. And on that sub-meter, it's perfectly legal to be able to do that. We charge that as per the state legislation for the amount. And we do read them for all of our landlords. All of our lease agreements do have that tenants do pay for water, regardless of if they are individually water metered or not. Mm-hmm. And that's purely so that if down the track, because we do have a few landlords that in the past have always paid for water, which is fair enough when it was $2 a kilolitre, it's now gone up to $4.105 a kilolitre. That's a lot of money. Yeah. So as we're making these properties individually water metered and water compliant, we will manually go in and read those water meters, and we don't charge our landlords to do that, to read the meter, and we don't charge them to charge a tenant.
Got it. I know one particular member that has possibly found out that they may have been paying the water usage. In the event that that happens, is there anything that an individual could do to reclaim payment if it's in the lease agreement that the tenant was to pay the water usage and the property manager missed it or forgot about it and didn't proactively ensure that was happening? Like, is there anything that the tenant can do in a position like that?
So legislation has just come through. So now we only have 4 weeks from the time the landlord receives the bill to charge a tenant. Mm-hmm. If it's come about that the landlord has sent the water bill to the agent and the agent hasn't charged it, well, that's then a failure of the agent. Mm-hmm. All of that sort of stuff comes under your Office of Fair Trading. But that's why what we encourage our landlords to do is change the email address to our email address. So we automatically pay the full bill, because that's what happens in Queensland. We get the full bill paid. We then invoice the tenants for their usage, and they've got 30 days to pay that back.
I love it. And I guess that leads on to my next question. I mean, what bills should our members be sending through to the property manager to handle and take care of? And what is the best way to kind of manage that to make it a bit easier? Because a lot of our members have multiple properties, and when you've got one property, it's pretty easy. But once you start accumulating, all of a sudden you've got bills coming here, there, and everywhere. I mean, yeah. what can we arrange with a property manager to manage for us?
So because I've got 3 investment properties that my office manage, and they pay all my bills. So they pay all my water bills, they pay all my rates, they pay all of my building insurance, they pay my landlord insurance, and then they pay everything to do with that property. So they pay my smoke alarm compliance, they pay for all of my maintenance, they pay for anything, my tax depreciation schedules, the whole lot I have the office pay for. And then at the end of the financial year, I send it to my accountant and say, please try and get me some money. But no, everything to do with the property. And we do encourage our landlords to get it sent to us. We've got landlords all around the world. Like, I've got a landlord at the moment who's backpacking through Europe, and I've got another one who's in the middle of Brazil. So they do miss things. Sometimes we do get oh my goodness, this rate's due today. Have I got money in the account? And I can then pay that for them if we've got the funds in the trust account. But we encourage our landlords to get them sent to us so that we can then get it paid out of the rental monies, and it's all in one central spot.
Yeah, no, I've definitely organised that recently and made sure that all my bills go directly to my property manager. I mean, obviously I get CC'd in so that I can actually see what is happening as well. But I find that is just a better system for me in making sure bills are paid, obviously, on time. And I guess the other question I had with your property management and something to think about. Obviously, in your tenancy agreement, they always recommend a certain amount that we allow the property manager to have transparency with, to be able to fix things without, without the owner or the owner's what do you call it, approval. Now, what happens if a property manager decides to fix something that is well and truly over the amount that was stipulated on the contract?
That then comes down to your Form 6. So in your Form 6, which is a legally binding document between you and the agency, you have those guidelines. So we actually have in our management agreement that there is $0 without approval. So we've done that for a very specific reason.
I like that.
I've worked for a lot of companies where if there's $200, the property manager will go, oh, I'll fix that plumber this week. And then next week I'll go get the electrician out. And then as long as I keep it under $200, at the end of the day, our maintenance really comes down to a bit of common sense. If we have something that a handyman needs to do, and it's going to be a 5-minute job, and it's not a massive deal, and the tenants don't mind, it's like, oh, it doesn't matter, we will monitor that until there's a couple of other things. Or what we say, especially with our plumbers, so our plumbers and electricians and handyman, we've worked with for years. They know our expectation. We want decent service. We want it at a discounted rate because we give them a lot of work, and we expect a bit of common sense. So we had an incident last week where a tenant had moved in and they'd noticed that there was a leak underneath the sink. This happens. So we sent our plumber out there. While he's at the property, he checks everything else as well. he called me straight away and he said, look, the ensuite's not that great, but you've also got an issue in the laundry as well. Do you want me to attend to it? I'm like, yep, go ahead and do it. It was an extra $35. Those are the sort of things where it really comes down to, is it something that needs to be done now? And then saying to the tradesman, chat to the tenant, is there anything else that needs to be done? Obviously, I don't want them to go refurbish it all and do whatever, but it comes down to something that's going to cost you an extra $35 now is better than an issue a month down the track.
It's going to cost you thousands.
All out and all the rest of
it. Yeah, no, I agree. Now we've got a couple of minutes left before we move into our private group with our members, which is going to give our members an opportunity to Q&A you and get some solutions and some great expertise. What would be your last kind of, I suppose, if someone was, really needing to get the best, property manager for their portfolio in a sentence or in a few words, or what would be that one thing that they should ask or make sure their property manager is going to deliver on?
Look, I think a lot of it just comes down to communication. How well do you interact with the agent? We don't believe that a tenant is just a tenant and we don't really care. And if the person you're dealing with has got a bit of chewed, we really want someone, we're a problem solver. So we deal with the tenant, they give us a problem, we solve it, and then give it to the landlord as a solution. So how easily are they to communicate with? And the only other thing to really worry about is your fees and charges. So I deal with a lot of landlords every day who are like, oh, I signed a management agreement. I didn't realize I was paying for this. I didn't realize I was paying for that. Really comes down to really having a look at your Form 6s, making sure that you're looking through all of that. Is there any fees and charges in there that you are getting charged for that you weren't aware of? They might sneak them through. I even have landlords that send it to me and go, I've spoken to you a few times. I'm going to send you my Form 6. Tell me where I should be looking for my fees and charges. I'm open to all of that because at the end of the day, even if you decide not to bring your management to me, it's something that I've at least empowered you to have a look and go, this is my property. This is my fees. This is out of my pocket. I'm getting this charged. What is it that I can do to really maximize it? And it also comes down to what is my agent looking for me? So I'll have owners say to me, I want to spend a little bit of money on my property. What is it that I can do? That's when we start sitting down going, okay, let's do this and this and this because this is setting you up to get a higher rent down the track. And that's ultimately why we have these investment properties and we go through all these headaches.
Love it. Well, Alice, thank you so much. I really appreciate having you here and in the Facebook Live. Now, we are about to jump off into our live, into our SHERP with our members where we can really get into some nitty gritty. Just before you go, there is one question that somebody had a question. Oh, it's for the SHERP group. It's one of our members, so that's fine. So we'll leave that question for our SHERP. So thank you, everyone in Facebook groups. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. And Josephine, let's get into our live SHERP now.
Thank you.